Hi, we're back, Reforming Grandma's Church, talking about music today. And there's a three-letter acronym, CCM, stands for
Contemporary Christian music. Crappy Christian music.
And as we know, contemporary just means of the times. So there was a day when A Mighty Fortress was CCM, technically speaking.
Right.
So I'm kind of known now as, well, I think one of your guys said it at our church, James White's guitarist. That's so sad on a number of levels.
That was one of our guys.
Right.
Sounds
and
right. Okay.
and he the way he said it was very funny and witty, and only because my version of Mighty Fortress being used for the Radio Free Geneva theme, combined postings, I've got like 100,000 views, and I've got every comment that you can imagine. Most of them, the vast majority, have been super positive. They're like, yes, yes. It's like when Beavis and Butthead see a real metal video. Yes, yes, yeah. Just because it seems to be appropriate, that style, my style of metal, prog, hard rock, seems to fit with bam, 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 pop, pop, pop.
Right.
Great. And I was talking earlier about, adding an instrument and having it just, it's like root beer in the punch bowl. It ruins everything, or it changes everything, or flavored everything. Right. Now the entire thing has that tinge of root beer.
Right.
And you were mentioning earlier about drums and how that, here we are, 2023, that instrument itself still seems to be the one that will bring consternation,
right,
angst, fear in the hearts of some people.
Yeah.
Right. Now, how much of that is associations with the cow sills? You don't even know who they are. That's so great. The Monkees.
The Monkees. All right. Yeah. Those hooligans.
Those rascals. Or how much of that is what you were talking about and having this flood of music overpower the congregational singing?
The people who are really upset about it, who would be wavering on whether to stay in their church or not over it, it has everything to do with, we have deemed a style of music unfit for corporate worship, but it's all about their personal preferences. One of the things I say here a lot is your desire for Southern gospel music is not any different than the churches up the road and their desire for electric guitar and drum, and it's exactly the same. It
comes from the same place.
It is a stylistic choice, which is fine. We all have.
Yeah.
I mean, the music here is a reflection of the stylistic choice that I want for this congregation.
Let's just
it is what it is.
Put your cards on the table.
I mean, it's not the music I listen to in my car all the time, but it's what I believe is right for us, for this people in this room. For one thing, I mean, one of the things with like drums, I'm not scandalized by drums, but I don't think they work very well in this room with these people.
Right.
And why fix it if it ain't broke?
I guarantee I know at least 3 drummers that could set up, play along, and it would be highly appropriate.
Yeah.
I think you've been victimized by bad drumming.
It's possible. We have a guy,
we have a hotline for such
things.
Yeah,
good.
Yeah.
We have the guy that plays, we use a cajon, the little box, hand
box?
drum. Yeah.
You sit on a box?
We have a box. And the brother that plays that is an excellent drummer.
Yeah.
he would for sure be able to play in an appropriate way. I just look around and go, I just don't know why we do it. I don't see a need to do it.
Yeah.
And so I have no bone to pick with it at all other than, and so when I say people ask, when are we going to do it? And I'm like, never, it's not because I think there's anything wrong with it.
Right.
I just look around and I go, what we're doing right now has led to our people singing.
Yeah.
What we have right now works with this room. And I don't see any reason why we need to keep pushing. So that's really, but no, I don't have a.
So really, we're in no way are we saying anything about praise him with the toph. That's the Hebrew for tambourine. It's more like it's just a skin stretched across. It's a membrane across a sounding board.
Right.
It would be a drum.
Right.
In real life, clash of cymbals, resounding cymbals, kind of repeats himself there. It's more a matter of what would work in the local setting.
Yeah, and with these people.
Yeah,
I mean, if I go to a church, we're visiting somewhere, and their music sounds like Coldplay or whatever the style is.
Yeah,
and their people are singing, and they're singing great truths. They're maybe singing the same songs we sing. They're just doing them that way. Then I'm like, oh, that was. I really loved that. That was great.
Exactly.
But I'm not then looking to go, and this is what I think a lot of people do. You go and you experience that, or you hear the music from City of Light or Sovereign Grace, or you're not listening to Bethel.
I don't even know who they
Hillsongs.
are.
You know who Sovereign Grace is?
City of Light. Never heard of them.
Oh, I
don't know stuff.
Yet not I, but Christ in me.
Have no clue.
It's a worthy song, Tim.
Worthy.
Anyway,
worthy is the Lamb.
I don't know many of those songs. That's true. That one really is. I don't know actually many of their songs, but I just mean there are people out there who are doing it and doing it very well.
Sure. Yep.
And I think what we do is we hear. I visited a church, and the guy leading the singing, it was just him and his guitar and his wife.
Yeah.
And they were playing like Bethel music and Hillsong music. So you're already like got a gag reflex going.
Yeah.
But I talked to the pastor later on, who's a friend of mine. I said, he's trying to replicate what he hears on the recordings.
Right.
It's just him and his guitar. And so that's what we do. We hear these things and we go, what? So I go visit a church and they're doing this style of music, and I'm like, I want to feel the way I felt there, and I want to do that here.
Yeah. I want the same response, the same reaction.
Yeah,
the music.
I'm not looking to do that. I want to let us be us, and
So no one should say, "Hey, if there's not a band, I couldn't do it,"
right?
Or if there is a band, I couldn't do it. I think both of those responses are immature.
Yep. Yeah, I agree.
I had mentioned one time that if there happened to be a skilled drummer that started attending our church, I'd be willing to give that a shake. Probably get an electric kit so we can control it. Absolutely. Put a little amp up there. That's his thing. Keep it down. One guy freaked out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, one guy. Now, he eventually left over our use of wine. He told us, this has been the biggest church splitting thing forever. And he was the only guy that left. It's just, come on.
Right.
I didn't understand that. But he really, really, that rubbed him not just the wrong way, but to a point of consternation. I can't sleep. We're going to have drums, And I don't think that's a very mature attitude to take. And another thing, I try to be fairly biblical in my approach. I can't have Psalm 50 in there and say drums are wicked. Right. That's stupid.
Right.
We visited our daughter and her husband live in Southern California, and they attend more modern-y church, and they probably use many of the songs we would say, I'm not really sure about that. Their drummer was awesome. He was an excellent drummer. He fit right in. And what my complaint was? The keys of the songs were way too high for a man. A normal guy, and the guy leading them, he could hit a C natural voice without breaking a sweat. I'm like, there's no way. You can't do that. Yeah, but an alto woman can.
Right.
And if we know anything about Christian radio, Christian music, there's a demographic group they're pointed to.
Yeah.
And it's not 55-year-old men.
Right. But it's high. I remember hearing one of those guys, whoever, Chris Tomlin, David Crowder, one of those popular guys talking about we sing high because it forces people to sing loud. My philosophy would be just like, let's sing truth that's so glorious it makes you want to belt it out.
Yeah.
You don't have to manufacture. But yeah, I mean, I struggle when we're in a setting, and it has nothing to do with liking or not liking the style of music. I struggle to sing along when we're in that setting. If we're somewhere and it's that kind of music, because it's usually too high for me. My voice has gotten lower the older I get. It's harder to sing high. I can't sing like I did when we recorded.
Dude.
And
I can't even sing like I did when we recorded the follow-up Love War album in September of 18.
Right.
I have to really concentrate. Now, here's the weird thing. In my own voice, something clicked 10 years ago, and I can no longer sing those super deep register bass, Blackwood Brothers stuff. You've heard them do that. But my rock voice is better. I can actually build it out.
Right.
But I have to be careful. I don't waste it.
Right.
So I think with the instrumentation, and I'll say this too, we've mentioned these two, Hillsong, Bethel. Our issue with those groups are way more theological and doctrinal than just music. I think the music can reflect that sometimes. Mm-hmm. But hey, let me tell you, a couple months ago, I got taken to the cleaners by somebody for even suggesting that the verses in one song that I had sung it was Bethel music. I won't say what it is. The verses are great. I mean, let the king of my life be the anchor of my soul. Absolutely. Now the chorus is anemic, and the bridge again. The bridge, my goodness, people, do we have to just over and over? And it's the same boring 6 minor, 4, 1, 5. I mean, boring to tears. Has nothing on some of the classics. However, just because a song's in a hymn book doesn't mean it's good.
Right.
Either.
Right, sure.
What are some classic old hymns that we love? We just love that song that you will not sing here.
Well, this isn't a classic old hymn, but it's a funny story. That with the first Christmas I was here, I said, "What are some of your favorite Christmas hymns that you sing here?"
Yeah.
One of the ladies says right away, "Oh, our very favorite is 'Come On, Ring Those Bells.'" And I said, let me tell you what we're not going to be doing anymore in this church. Singing songs together that start with, everybody likes to take a holiday. Everybody likes to take a rest. We won't. Come On, Ring Those Bells.
I thought maybe it was up on the housetop. I don't know.
I would have gone for that better. But I mean, like, there's the periodic, like, we don't do I'll Fly Away anymore. And I don't understand that. And
By the way, we did do that in the Fall Music Festival.
Sure.
As a sing-along.
Yeah, fun.
As a fun,
right.
The old Orthodox Presbyterian Church, the Trinity hymnal. They'll have their whole hymnal, and then there's a section, songs for informal occasions.
Oh, okay.
And that's where you'll find the super popular singspiration gospel hymns that I grew up with.
Yeah.
There shall be showers of blessing.
It's really all those gospel songs that makes a person who likes to, who makes them very happy, but content-wise are lacking
very weak
greatly. And
very weak.
And my feeling is we've only got a certain number of songs we're going to sing.
Right.
Let's not waste them. And I'm conscious too. Like even if a song isn't doesn't have content that is disagreeable, what would we, if this is all we had? And I, frankly, as a preacher, you do know that, like, they're going to remember a couple things I said, but they're going to be singing these songs all week. And what will the people of God know about God just from the music? What will they not know about God just from if that's all they had to go on? What would they know about God? What wouldn't they know about God?
That is so funny you bring that up. 2 weeks ago, I get an email from a guy who's probably going to be our next deacon, and he's a UPS driver, and he said, Tim, I have you to blame for Holy Jesus being in my head, and I can't get it out.
Right.
And it's such a rich hymn.
Yeah.
And I know darn well he's tracking with me through Romans. I mean, he's taught. He knows how to. He's competent in the Word. But just getting that email, this thing is ringing in my head. Ah, holy Jesus, how hast thou offended? He hasn't. You did.
Right.
Hey, welcome back to another pack opening of Grandma's Church. We're going to get right into it today. First poll is Children's Church. Fine card. Next, okay, Guitar Solo. So Guitar Solo is one of those cards that you're going to find in both Megachurch and Grandma's Church. And people think that they overlap and you can use them basically in the same way in both settings. That's not the case. So in Megachurch, this is a really strong card. In Grandma's Church, it's not going to do well. Basically, no denominational deck is really going to utilize it well. Maybe a little bit for the non-denominational deck if you want to go with that, but it's not a very strong card. Guitar Solo. Sound system problems. So there are two cards like this. There is sound system problems and there's faulty sound system. So sound system problems you can actually get rid of if you have a sound guide congregant card, whereas the faulty sound system is going to require you to use a budget card to get rid of it. It'll be a little trickier. Flooded Basement. Obviously not a good card. This card's going to come about when you draw an Act of God card, which obviously you can't control. Whenever you get an Act of God card in a pack, you've got to put it in your deck. There's nothing you can do about it. There's always a chance it's going to happen. And if you pull an Act of God card that's rain or flooding, then there's a chance you're going to have to play this card. 100-year-old building. Okay, when you're starting your deck, you got to pick denomination, you got to pick Calvinist, Arminianism, cessationalist, continuationist. There's a lot of things you got to choose. Buildings, you don't have a lot of choice. You get what you get, and you don't throw a fit. So, 100-year-old building, if that's what you draw, that's what you draw. That's what you're going to be playing with. And this one requires a building repair budget, which almost all of these cards, if they're an older building, they're going to require. So that's just something you got to live with. Okay, second piano. So this card here is a really interesting card because you might have a piano in your deck and you might think that that's enough, but you would be dead wrong. Second piano, you've got to put in your deck. You're going to have like a grand piano as your main piano, and then you're going to have to play this second piano. I don't know exactly why it is, but it's just how the game play works. And you're going to see this across all denominational decks.
I'll get periodic videos from like a parent of them filming either their children wanted to do a special performance of a hymn and they record it, or they just kind of walk around the corner and they're singing. It's the hymns we're singing in church.
Yeah.
And you just go, let's not squander this on
exactly.
songs that don't get us there. And so that's the main thing. Now, I'm sure somebody's going to hear this and be like, well, we sing this hymn a lot and it's not as meaty as A Mighty Fort. Well, yeah, I like that hymn.
What is? Come on. Right.
I mean, I like, some of the hymns we sing are like, these are songs people just really belted out on. It's fun,
Yeah.
But we're looking to sing.
Have you
meaty
worked
songs
in the garden into your repertoire?
We have not worked that in.
Okay. Not surprised.
We have not worked that in. But yeah, when I came, I cut us down to about 30 songs, I would say, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Wow. Yeah.
This is what we're starting from, and we're going to rebuild from here.
Yeah.
So now, I don't know, 125.
Yeah.
I don't know. We don't have a huge repertoire of songs, but, we'll add a new song. We added a new song on Sunday, which is a newer hymn from the Gettys, "O Church Arise," and it fit with the message that was coming on Sanctity of Life Sunday, and we and that's one we'll sing then a little more often so people can learn it in the short run. But I'm slow to add music. I want to sing. Most weeks I want everybody to know every song and be able to sing it out. And
what I used to do in teaching songs, since I had the ability to do it, this goes back to 06, 07. But if we were going to learn a new song, I would send a scan of the sheet music and an MP3 of me singing the song. I would take like a piano accompaniment, add guitar and vocal, and then here's what we're going to learn. And then we would also have, sometimes after a fellowship meal, Sunday afternoon, we'd learn a song. Everyone would go up, and we would just have a blast doing it. It was all low key and fun. And
that's a great idea.
I recommend that if they're more difficult. Some of the psalms can be difficult. I found when I got to Syracuse Baptist Church that pretty much your standard revivalist stuff, but there are gems within even that 1975 Baptist hymnal, which frankly, Jason, some of the editorial choices, I despair. Well, that's when the Southern Baptist Church was overrun by theological liberalism and a hatred for the doctrines of grace. Now they would have said, "Oh no, you mean Calvinism?" Yeah, they would swap words out for no reason at all, just to make it. I don't want his love to be powerful. I want it to be wonderful.
Tender. Not a lot of singing of "From Heaven He Came and Sought Her to Be His Only Bride."
Expunged. Oh, and in fact, the entire fourth verse of Rock of Ages just not there. Nothing in my hands I bring. It's gone.
Right.
What are you guys thinking? Well, so as you well know, what I did, was to create an auxiliary hymnal. Michael Foster, thank you for the title, because it was the title of the album from 2020, Battle Hymns for Weary Souls. So our extra hymnal is called Battle Hymns, and it's got about 100 songs in it, and we haven't learned them all, obviously. But I discovered some of the songs that no one knew about were some of the best ones, and they're from that early 19th century Americana, Walker's Southern Harmony, the Sacred Heart music, What Wondrous Love Is This? They weren't even singing it. Come Ye Sinners, Pour In. I know there's two different versions of that.
Yeah.
Great song. Wonderful.
Yeah.
And so as you begin to explore, you're like, hey, you guys have a heritage here.
Right.
You could do, and I'll go out on a limb here. Any one of those songs that we're singing in regular rotation, you could have a full rock band and do it in such a way.
Right. Yeah.
So
definitely.
when I record sermons, I'm often trying to figure out, okay, it separates into, 4.5 gigabyte files, and you don't want to convert them all. You just want to convert the ones you need. But you'll click on it, and it's during one of the songs. Man, I tell you, the singing sounds wonderful. You're picking up that stereo camera audio, and the whole room is just resounding.
Right.
And here's another thing. I don't mean to go on, but in buildings that are designed for the rock band, they have to be acoustically dead.
Right.
Guess what suffers?
Yeah.
The voice.
Yeah.
In this room, it's got a great short decay. It's got enough natural ambience so that when the voices kick in, it's the voices that are going to be primary, not the rock band.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's just how we want it.
That's how we roll.
Let me ask you this, because I think it will be helpful, because I think most pastors are not in the position we're in, which is we came right in as the ones who were going to be leading the music. Now, it's probably not always going to be that way for both of us.
Right.
But if you weren't the one doing it, so we're picking the songs out, we're doing all that. Would you guitar pick in the pocket, just in case?
It's my superstition.
Just in case. Is there? I used to keep them in my wallet all the time.
Yeah.
Would you? Let's say you had someone else who was doing the primary leading of the music. What is your thoughts on your involvement then, in terms of, would you just hand over the picking out of the music to this person? Would you?
Well, if they're competent, if their vision is similar to where you want to emphasize the congregational nature of the singing, I think if that were to happen, if that time came and somebody, rose up through the ranks or whatever, I'm not looking for hiring anyone. We don't hire, but similar with if someone showed up and I found out, wow, this guy can really play the drums well. I mean, I want to use him in my studio well. Mm-hmm. Let's buy him an electric kit. Let's start working that in.
Right.
No big deal. So if someone were to show up and they displayed an acumen, even if I should probably start training someone as we speak, and there's a certain level of, if you get the men, everyone else will follow. Mm-hmm. That's important, not only in other areas, but in music. If you can get the men singing, which that's one of the things I love about the congregational singing in our church, is you hear them all. You heard loud, husky, high, soprano, mm-hmm. Kids who couldn't sing their way out of a wet paper bag, but singing at full volume. Mm-hmm. Bring it.
Right.
Bring it. I want it. That's what I want.
Yeah.
I want everybody singing.
Right.
And so we're not doing the Christian radio demographic group, moms 25 to 42.
Right.
They'll sing. They'll sing. No problem.
Yeah.
So if somebody came along and they're like, hey, you know what? I think I can do this. That would relieve me. Even though I enjoy it.
Right.
But yeah. What about you?
Yeah. I mean, I feel that way. I enjoy doing it. It's something I just think there are many Sundays where I'm standing up there and I'm like, I get to look at everybody's faces.
Yeah.
I get to hear them singing. Oh.
Yeah.
Why would I ever not do this? And then there's other times where I'm like, it'd be kind of nice to not have to do these certain things. But
yeah.
I've kind of felt like, and I've said to some people, like, I can't really envision myself not being involved on some level in the picking out of the hymns we're going to be singing in the.
Yeah.
But I do think if there was someone who came along and I just felt like they seem to be of one mind with me on what this is, then I think I'd feel like, and maybe it's just that one of my great weaknesses is delegation. I mean, it really is. Part of me feels like you can't ask people to do things,
Yeah.
But part of it is like, well, I know how I want it done, and
yeah.
So neither one of those is great.
Sure.
But,
right.
So I'm sure that's part of it. But I think if somebody came along and I was like, they've got the same idea here about what we're doing, what we're trying to do.
Obviously, they're not going to have the same guitar.
Golden voice.
So we don't even,
we don't even talk about that. Yeah, no. So that, I could see that. But I know that, talking to some other pastors who are sort of doing a work like this, one of the real hurdles they've got that we didn't have is, hey, I've got a worship leader.
And he's on this track, and I'm trying to go this way.
And that's boy, that is a struggle. And again, I think the same thing fits, though. You've got to be wise about what am I going to make an instant deal. If we're singing some songs that are heretical, have bad theology, they got to go right now.
Yeah, bye-bye. Yeah.
If it's songs that are being put out by groups who we disagree with their theology and we don't think it's wise to sing their music, we've named Bethel Hill songs, those guys.
Oneness groups as well.
Oneness groups.
Even Vineyard on some level.
Right.
Sorry, guys.
Then you're dealing with, okay, what is the most wise path to extract us?
Yeah.
And I know I've counseled guys, you're probably gonna have to be a little patient on that, even though it makes you feel like pulling your hair out on a Sunday morning when you know who this is coming from. But don't shy away from acknowledging at appropriate times what we think about those groups. And I don't know that I'd call attention to and we sing one of their songs this morning. That's what I used to do back in the old days at Eden.
Sure.
I would just but we got to be wise. But I know that that's a hurdle for them and a struggle that thankfully we didn't.
Yeah, that's a very good point. There wasn't an existing structure for that. There wasn't an existing person who was in charge of that. And being musicians, you take up the mantle, you do your thing, you do it to the glory of God. And I think it's almost a corollary to once you get used to weekly communion, you don't want to go back.
Yeah.
I think once you get used to a certain level of robust, lively hymnody, it's kind of hard to go back. I'll be honest. One of the founders' conferences, Bob Coughlin led on a piano. It was him and a piano. Mm-hmm. It was really good, really good. However, I could always tell when he was singing one of their songs.
Versus
and when he was singing one of the classic songs. There was a tonality and approach. Nothing wrong with that. I get it. We need to write new songs. And so, how much of this ends up being songs from this 16th century, 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th. There are still standards that I think the Bible and God has graciously given us. There is such a thing as truth, beauty, goodness, and I really I couldn't agree with you more that I think the emphasis needs to be on the primacy of the voice of the people as that driving energy of the music on a Sunday morning.
Right. So what about skill level? You are a professional musician, so there's not going to be somebody probably who comes along and is like, they're just better than me at this, but what about, there is a certain standard right now, I would say, with the person leading the singing in both of our churches, and there probably isn't another person in the church right now who would do that same level. So what do you see as... Would you hand the reins off to somebody where there was a clear dip? What level does skill in that? In the same way we talked some of this with preaching, that I wouldn't put a godly man who I thought was called to preach, I wouldn't put him in the pulpit on a Sunday morning if he was not yet skilled at it.
Yeah.
We're not wasting a Sunday on that. We will find venues for you to learn and to grow.
That's right.
I will actively pursue that. I will create new opportunities. But
no, that's a good question. And one of the things you have to be mindful of is, at our church we've got piano, organ, bass guitar, and acoustic guitar. I lead on acoustic. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I'll do the intro all by myself. And I have to remind our musicians that you don't have to just come in as soon as you figure out where you are, because that really doesn't sound all that natural.
Right.
What you do is you wait until the next head.
Come in the next, right.
That's right. That's perfectly fine, because everyone, and I'm leading, so I'm going to be looking up.
Yeah, and it's great. It actually gives it levels, and
that's right. Yeah, that's right. Dynamics are important. I've played with professional church musicians who basically they're going to be triple F the whole time. They leave no room for any dynamics. I mean, as soon as the first verse, man, they're up in the high register, beating it to death. And as a piano tuner, I'm like, well, at least I get a job out of that too. Yeah, I mean, again, God does what he does and calls. And I think related to that, coming to a church where you've already got this thing set in stone and this is what I want to do, da-da-da-da-da. And you'd have to be able to make a case even culturally and sociologically that, it would be better in the long run for this group of people for the next, you got to think generational faithfulness, even in music.
Yeah.
10 years from now, 20 years from now, what's going to last?
Right.
What's still going to be in your, quote, set list?
Right.
As a professional musician, I get to have a little fun with that. Our set list. Oh, yeah, you should have seen my set list. 3 1-hour sets a night, 5 nights a week.
Right.
And you know them all.
Right.
Well, that's about all the time we have for this episode. I know we didn't cover every single base, but I think if you would keep in mind, commensurate with just what's appropriate for that church group, you're going to be okay. And I would just advise people, don't over hyper specialize your music styles.
Right.
Try to keep it within the range of kids that are 5, men that are 75.
Yeah.
And all ages in between. The church is made up of a whole lot of different kind of people. And as Jason said, the voice of the congregation, the called out assembly, that should be the focal point, I believe. Yeah. All right. Tim Bushong.
Jason Gingrich.
Reforming Grandma's Church. See you next time. We ended on music.
We blended so beautifully there.
Ended on music.
Oh, man.
Remember, if you like what you see here and if you appreciate the ministry of Reforming Grandma's Church, please subscribe and hit the bell for notifications.